Jay's Barbecue. Hickory smoked brisket, pulled pork, half chicken, sausage, wings, baby backs, and the biggest baked potato you've ever seen. 100 East Nolana. Barbecue restaurant, catering, and drive-thru. Gotta love Jay's.
Well, it wouldn't do to talk about offense without being a little defensive about it, and so now we're going to look at the kids who were the best in the Valley this year at stopping the opposition. We had some great defenses collectively this year. Edinburgh North had a great one. Mission had a good one. You can name a bunch of others, but right now we're focusing on the individuals who we feel stood out position by position. It's difficult because I'll just give you the heads up. There were about 20 linebackers this year, and it was hard to pick 8. We managed to do that. Let's start up front with Josh Dennett, Edinburgh North. That defense allowed about 190 points a game. Big 96, was a great player all year. He was super fast, very good chase speed. He went about 250, made a ton of plays in the middle. Robert Trevino from Ed Couch, a little bit different of a player, not bulky. He was very fast, very aggressive. Him and Mike Garza, the linebacker, and about 6 or 8 other kids on that Ed Couch defense, which was one of the best. Robert Trevino stood out to us, and he's coming back next year, so that gives you someone to watch for 2013. Miguel Ramirez, Port Isabel, big number 63. He could have been in this team as an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman. He's that big, rangy kid that, if he works in the weight room in the offseason, he can hold about 20, 25 more pounds. I feel like he has the potential to be maybe the best player in the Valley next year. He's outstanding. Linebackers, we mentioned there were tons. Fabian Villarreal of Weslaco East makes this team. I don't remember seeing a kid this year that was so rocket fast to the ball. I mean, you look up and there's that kid anywhere on the field, putting a helmet on somebody, and he wasn't very big, but I'm telling you, his closing speed, his instinct and read and react were fantastic. Wonderful football player. A bigger version of him, Garrett Sharp of McAllen Memorial. Here's a kid at 6'1", about 210, strong as a bull, mean as a snake, and he had that read and react situation going on just like Fabian. That's what makes a great linebacker, guys. You can't look too long. You got to know, you got to see, you got to go. If you end up looking, you're not going to make the tackle. I thought Garrett Sharp was just a ridiculous player all year. Fantastic. Nathan Prado, how many years have we been talking about him? He's another one of those guys like Fabian. He's not huge, but he makes a ton of plays. He had 12 sacks this year, 112 tackles. And if there's a player with more will and more determination in the Valley than Prado, I haven't seen him yet. Because he gets downright nasty about it. He gets mean about it. Man, I like that kid because when he doesn't do something 100% right, he gets mad himself. He'll hit himself on the helmet. I love Nathan Prado. Outstanding player. Now, Mercedes had a kid this year, Gumaro Cuellar. A great story. Came back from a couple of ACL surgeries, made 193 tackles. By my estimation, led the Valley. He was just a monster. Again, about 110%, a big motor, a big hitter. Kind of like what you like in your linebackers are for them to kind of run through people and tackle through them and maybe even talk about them a little bit, within reason. Gumaro was a big talker on the field, but he backed it up with his play. I thought he was tremendous all year. They had great linebackers at Mercedes. They also had Geraldo Pettis. So, and not to mention the fact that Weslaco East with Fabian, they also had Ace Sabalo. So you look at these teams that had great linebackers, the best teams, the ones that won the most, had more than one linebacker. Why? Because that means that kid doesn't have to make every play. So if Fabian didn't get there, Ace was going to get there. And sometimes they both got there at the same time, and that was no good for the offensive kid. Secondary, we got a classic stand-up big hitter in Michael Cadena from Donna, number 2. If you have to remember this kid. I don't think pound for pound there was a harder hitter. And he's a good cover guy, but I just like to see him come up and pop people because that's, I think, what he liked to do. He's been doing that for 3 years for them. Andy Duarte of Economides, probably a surprise pick to some people. Let me tell you briefly about this guy. Senior year, 3-year starter. Jags never made the playoffs since 2003. This kid had 7 interceptions, 90 tackles, 49-yard bomb against Sharyland, caught a bunch of other passes. He was pretty simply on defense the heart and soul of a team that by the end of the season, had learned to believe. Team leader, the kind of kid that you need to win a football game week in and week out. Really proud of Andy. And finally, 2 athletic kids that you could have put them anywhere in the team and they would be good. Akeem Simeon, he had a bunch of interceptions, had 7 picks, averaged 27 yards a catch. He's just too good an athlete not to be first team somewhere. And I think if he just played strictly defense, which maybe he'll do in college, I think he's a phenomenal player. He's always making plays for those Fresnos and has been doing that for a couple of years. The other kid, Nick Garcia of South, very few people had the numbers he had. He did a little bit of everything. He ran a punt back for a touchdown. He was the punter. He caught a bunch of passes, 647 yards, I believe. Had 4 interceptions. Nick Garcia is one of those guys who he'll just help you win a football game. And I think you can see how important he was because in that playoff game against Edinburgh North, he was not himself. He was ill, and it really hurt the Hawks when they were trying to advance to the third round. So that's a pretty good little defense. And going back to the offensive side, if you need somebody to punt, Edinburgh had the best special teams in the Valley this year. Okay, Christoph Martinez was a phenomenal kicker, and this kid Ramon Enriquez from EHS, man, that guy pounded the ball. He pounded the ball. 41 yards a kick. He's a big kid. When he goes to college, which I believe he will to play, they're going to work on his technique and his physicality. He's going to be hitting 44 and 45 yards a kick. He could be another Paul Alsbury, if you remember that name from the past, in Southwest Texas and Edinburgh Bobcats. So these are the first two teams. We encourage you to go on to 956sports.com, check out the second team, give us your comments, your criticism, your praise of the instructor. Bottom line is we do the best we can to represent as many kids in as many regions as possible. We had a great season. This is what we came up with. We hope you enjoy.